Yeah, hi, these comments are for UL, and I am Michael Buckoff, and you completed one of my difficult integrated writing practice tests. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a score, and then I'm going to offer some suggestions, specific suggestions on how you can improve your writing, this particular writing task, so you can score 30 points out of 30. Now, you already got good news for you. You already know. There's nothing that I'm going to tell you right now that you don't already know. You actually have pretty good writing proficiency. So I read your essay. I reviewed the reading passage in the lecture. I'm putting you in the 4 area, 4.0 to 4.75. I think here you have more frequent or noticeable minor language errors than the perfect essay. But these errors do not result in anything more than an occasional lapse of clarity or a connection of ideas. I think that probably describes your writing pretty well right now. Now here you have minor omission, inaccuracy, vagueness, or incorrectness of some of the content. I don't think that's a problem with your writing. With the third reading point and the third lecture point, I'm going to add a little bit of information to that, but overall you did a pretty good job in that area. And so I think the only reason at this point you're not getting a score of 30 out of 30 is probably because of the minor language errors, right? So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on as I go through your essay. I will offer some. Okay, let's take a look at this first paragraph here. So we have the passage introduces the benefits of the Atkins diet, in which practitioners are advised to substitute carbohydrate. I would make this an adjective, and you don't have to worry about putting the plural s there. So to substitute carbohydrate intake, one of the body's main energy sources. So grammatical word endings, interesting enough. And let me check the reading passage just briefly here. Let me look at something just quickly. So yeah, it's referring to it as the Atkins diet. So putting the S at the end of that word. So if we look back at what you've written here, we'll even put the S here. So the passage introduces benefits of the Atkins diet, in which practitioners are advised to substitute carbohydrate intake, one of the body's main energy sources, for protein intake in order to lose weight in a short amount of time compared to other restricted diets. Very good introduction, by the way. Say, yet the professor casts doubt on the claim in the text by shedding light on some of the shortcomings of this controversial diet. So perfect. I have no comments on your organization. It's very good, and you've exactly explained the main point, I think, from the reading and the listening passage, and you're showing what the connection is. And I like the use of the word yet, because that's showing how the lecture is disagreeing with the points mentioned in the reading passage. So far in your notes, you want to write down grammatical word endings. Sometimes you're having trouble with grammatical word endings. Maybe it's using a plural s or a possessive s, something along those lines. These are very, very minor things, but maybe as we get into the essay, you might be having some more difficulties as we go. So remember, it's not any one or two errors that makes the difference of getting 30. It's an accumulation of errors throughout the essay that ultimately bring that essay down from a perfect score. All right, so let's take a look at our paragraph number 2. So the first point of the text, and basically you probably don't really need to say, we know that you're summarizing the information, right? So the first point of the text explains how the Atkins diet, and maybe instead of saying is able to, let's be more concise in our writing here. Let's say delivers, I would just say weight loss here in a short amount of time. Okay, when the body switches, and that's not a major problem there, When the body switches from foods, you have to say that. If you say that, you have to say are, because foods is plural, right? So remember, subject-verb agreement. And be careful with subject-verb agreement in the adjective clause there. So, but how about this? What if we just say this? What if we reduce the adjective clause to a phrase? Say, when the body switches from foods rich in carbs and consumes mainly, how about this? What if we get rid of that prepositional phrase there and we do this, mainly, and then say high protein foods? Now put this in your notes. I'll give you comments as I go, but I have a lesson, the grammar part of my course, I want you to take a look at. It's called Being More Concise. I can't remember the number right now, but I want you to look at that lesson. It will give you some tips on how you can tighten up some of your sentences so you're not so wordy. So when the body switches from foods rich in carbs and consumes mainly high protein foods, if you use the word foods here, I would probably keep it this way. Now, I know food can be count or uncount noun, but let's be consistent. The body burns fat to provide. I wouldn't even use this for. I would just say to provide the required energy. This is your first pretty big problem here. You have what's called a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence means you have two independent clauses coming together, which is not good. So what we have to do here is end the sentence. We have two choices, either a period or a semicolon. Let's demonstrate a little bit more advanced sentence structure. So put the semicolon. If you're not sure about the semicolon, we use this one to join separate sentences together that have a close relationship. You can also study more about punctuation and semicolons by going to the grammar part of my course. If you go near the end of the grammar section, you'll see some lessons about punctuation. So you say, those people, who is, again, subject-verb agreement. Again, this has come up again. So with adjective clauses, you're not sure about that. You would say, thus people who are under this diet lose weight much faster. But we don't even need the adjective clause. How about this? Let's just say this. We say, thus people under this diet lose weight much faster than those with other diets. So in this case, we're using those to refer back to people, so I think that's important. So just that one area there, that's a sentence structure error. So you can also go to the grammar part of my course and take a look at the lessons. It's called, I think, run-on, comma splices, and fragments. You might want to go through that particular lesson also, and it'll tell you how to avoid this type of error in writing. Then we go to the next part. However, the shortcoming of this practice, as a professor points out, is its lack of sustainability. And what you did there was genius. It doesn't say the word sustainability in the lecture, but it does talk about that idea. So that's a very good vocabulary word that you're using there. You have, that means dieters will revert back to their old eating habits. And I'm going to use the plural S here, habits, once the weight is lost, therefore gaining back, if not more. I'm going to say here, whatever, not whichever. I think what's going to work better here, not which. So, therefore gaining back, if not more, whatever amount of fat this is another pretty big problem here. I'm going to say managed to lose. Why am I doing that? If you say were managed, you're using what's called passive voice. But passive voice is not needed here. You're saying the dieters managed to lose the weight. So the dieters are actually initiating the action here, not receiving the action. So active voice, not passive voice, works better in this particular sentence. You see what I'm saying? So put that down in your notes. So again, this is a problem with active versus passive voice. Also in this paragraph, you're having a problem with sentence structure, and you created or committed what's called a run-on sentence type error. You're also having some problems with your singular and your plural nouns. Take good notes, buddy, because what I'm doing here, I'm giving you feedback. I'm showing you the problems that you're having and how that lowers your score from a perfect score of 30. All right, so secondly, the text states or claims. Don't need to use both, right? So let's do this. We'll just use one. So the text states that the Atkins diet can act as a preventer. Too many words in there. Can present some dangerous diseases such as diabetes due to a low sugar level in the body resulting from this is another language error. I'm going to put resulting here. Now, why is that? If you look at this as an adjective clause, right? Let's put the word which. Which. Okay, hold on a minute. So you have it's due to a low sugar level in the body, which results from a low intake. And how about this? If we get rid of the prepositional phrase here, check this out again. I'm just giving you ideas. This is not an error that you're making. I'm just showing you how to tighten up your sentences. So basically, for academic writing, think of it like this. There's really three principles. Don't use a dependent clause if you can use a phrase. Don't use a phrase if you can reduce it to a single word. By reducing your clauses of phrases, your phrases to single words, you're making the writing more concise, and that's a good thing. Okay, let's go back to why I'm not saying resulted. So notice here you have resulted or results, which is actually, number one, it's present, right, and not past, but it's also active voice. So what it means is having the low sugar level in the body results in low carbohydrate intake. So I'm using this more in active voice, not passive voice. So this is the second time in this essay you've had problems with active versus passive voice. So I'm going to take this, and because this adjective clause has active meaning, when I reduce it, I change results to resulting. So then we have a low sugar level in the body resulting from a low carbohydrate intake, right? That's why I made that choice. Okay, then we say, however, the professor calls for further investigation in this regard because the temporary prevention of one disease can be or has the ability for others. I'm going to probably change this to could to make it more of a possible, not an ability kind of a thing. So could be the cause for other diseases. But you're saying others instead of that, as another professor based in Denver, USA, suggests. Let's go back over here for a quick second here. Let's look at what it says here. Yeah, it says according to Robert H. Eckel here, you have he worries that the Atkins diet may not be good for preventing heart disease, stroke, and cancer. In theory, the diet may prevent one disease only to potentially cause another. That's why I'm using the word could there and not can. I can go to the store later on. It means I have the ability to. It could rain later on. It might rain. I'm using it more to create a more of an uncertain tone there. All right, let's go back to your writing here. See what we got. The professor calls for further investigation. I would change this to present. You're using present pretty much everywhere. I don't see why I would say once suggested. Okay, let's go to the last area here. So finally, the lecture refutes a notion in the text that losing appetite results in long-term health. He points out the fact that carbohydrates are required. This is good. You're using passive voice correctly here. So out of the 3 times you tried to use passive voice, you did it correctly one time. The other 2 you did not. So you're about maybe 66%, I think, of understanding passive voice at this point. Are required for a healthy. No, you don't need a here. Why not? Because you have activities, which is plural. So you have are required for healthy metabolic activities. And I'm going to say, how about this? Speaker suggests, and eliminating carbohydrate foods, as speaker suggests, from daily meals can result in weight loss, but not necessarily a healthy body. I think the word but is needed in there, right? Now the next thing, I want to put these two together here. Let me go ahead and show. I want to add something a little bit to what you have written here. Give me a quick second. Hold on. Okay, so I think here you probably need to say this paragraph is the least developed, right? So we can probably add a little bit more. Not that it's you have a lot of development here, because let's face it, we have you have 286 words. That's not a problem. But let's look at the reading passage one more time and just make sure we're covering all our bases here. So it says, the appetite is reduced, which is the whole purpose of losing weight. Eaters get to consume rich foods like steak and cheese. This allows the person to eat the very foods that many diets restrict. Over time, the person does not have a large appetite, can enjoy participating in there. Notice how each time you talked about the text, but then in the final one you talked about the lecture. So you might want to say the reading passage asserts allows its participants to lose significant weight since they They've lowered their appetite. That's what I would do is I'm just adding a little bit here. I think it's important to do a little bit because in that final paragraph, what you've done here is you talk about the reading, then the lecture. You talk about the reading and then the lecture, but then when you get to the very end, you talk about the lecture first and then a little bit about the reading. So you want to try to follow a consistent type organization. You want to be logical in how you're doing it. So that's why I made a few changes with this. It would say, finally, the reading passage asserts that the Atkins diet allows its participants to lose significant weight since they have lowered their appetites. And maybe instead of using, we'll use instead of a compound, they've lowered their appetites and can eat foods they enjoy. The lecturer you might say something like, in contrast, the lecturer in contrast refutes the notion in the text that, I'm going to say, a loss of appetite results in long-term health. He points out, how about this? What if we did this? Let's give you more advanced grammar here. Or how about this? Let's play around a little bit. So the lecture in contrast, refuting the notion in the text that a loss of appetite results in long-term health. So then we won't even have to say that. Then we say, I think we got it. So the lecture in contrast, refuting the notion in the text that a loss of appetite results in long-term health, points out don't even need to say the fact, points out that carbohydrates are required for healthy metabolic activities. Eliminating carbohydrate foods, the speaker suggests, from daily meals. I don't think we need a comma here. Oh, no, we do, because we're putting it in the middle there. Sorry. Eliminate carbohydrate foods, the speaker suggests. And maybe, probably better to break it like that. So eliminating carbohydrate foods from daily meals, the speaker suggests, can result in weight loss, but not necessarily a healthy body. So that's it. These are some of the changes I would make. I think what I did here in that final paragraph, I tried to make it a little bit more balanced, so you're spending about the same amount of time discussing each reading and listening point in your body paragraphs. All right, let's read it one more time. So the passage introduces the benefits of the Atkins diet, in which practitioners are advised to substitute carbohydrate intake, one of the body's main energy sources, for protein intake in order to lose weight in a short amount of time compared to other restricted diets. Yet, the professor casts doubt on the claim in the text by shedding light on some of the shortcomings of this controversial diet. The first point of the text explains how the Atkins diet delivers weight loss in a short amount of time. When the body switches from foods rich in carbs and consumes mainly high-protein foods, the body burns fat to provide the required energy. Thus, people under this diet lose weight much faster than those with other diets. However, the shortcomings of this practice, as a professor points out, is its lack of sustainability. What you said there is beautiful. That is really, really good. That means dieters will revert back to their old eating habits once the weight is lost, therefore gaining back, if not more, whatever amount of fat they managed to lose. Right? Now, this is correctly written here, and this is not a run-on or a comma splice because you're saying therefore gaining ing, right? So that was a very nicely written sentence. You say, secondly, the text states that the Atkins diet can prevent some dangerous diseases such as diabetes due to a low sugar level in the body resulting from a low carbohydrate intake. However, the professor calls for further investigation in this regard because a temporary prevention of one disease could be the cause for others. And you have heart disease, and maybe say it like that, and cancer. That's probably better there. As another professor based not on, in, based in Denver. We don't usually say Denver, United States. We say Denver, Colorado, and then maybe USA suggests. Then you say the end. Finally, the reading passage asserts that the Atkins diet allows its participants to lose significant weight since they have lowered their appetites and can eat foods they enjoy. The lecturer, in contrast, refuting the notion in the text that a loss of appetite results in long-term health, points out that carbohydrates are required for healthy metabolic activities. Eliminating carbohydrate foods from daily meals, the speaker suggests, can result in weight loss, but not necessarily a healthy body. All right, so what do we know? What do we know? We know that you're a good writer. I know that. You know that, right? So I'm putting you at 25 points out of 30. That's a score that I'm giving you here. So what are some things you can do to improve? So be careful about run-on sentences. That's one thing that you want to be careful about, right? That's I made a correction in there on that. Okay, let's keep going. Singular and plural nouns. You need to improve those singular and those plural nouns. If the noun's singular, it's singular. If it's plural, put S on it. You're having some trouble with that. That's a problem you're having right now. So you want to be careful about that, right? Some other things I think you can probably review at my website using semicolons, maybe how to use that. I think that would be good. And the one lesson, which I think can be helpful for you, is called being more concise. So if we go over to my website, let me navigate over here. So let me go over to my website. Let's take a look at it together here for just a minute. Okay, if I go to the grammar part of my course, let's see. Let me show you what I think might be helpful for you right now. I think parallel structure, I think lesson 14. You remember that one part in the when I was correcting, I said then those instead of and with. I put the word those in here with the more than kind of parallel construction. So parallel structure is something you can take a look at. Lesson 16, this is killing you, I think. Count and non-count nouns. I think that's something you can definitely look at. To help you with your writing style a little bit, you can check out sentences with appositives, lesson number 4. Lesson 19, passive verbs, understanding passive versus active voice. This is not a really robust lesson, so you may have to go to Google to get more, but this is one that you had at least 2 errors with in there. So lesson number 19, lesson 20, a, and the. I think you can definitely look at that lesson. Lesson number 21, prepositions. Lesson 22 is subject-verb agreement. But the problem is it's with adjective clauses. So lesson 22, I think, is important to look at. And also, if you go back to sentences with adjective clauses, if you look at lesson number 6, study it with the context of understanding subject-verb agreement within adjective clauses. You had at least 2 errors in your writing with that as I looked at the essay. Okay, what else? Here, lesson number 29, semicolon, colon, dash, period. The semicolon is the one you need to review and take a look at. And where's the other one? Lesson 27, I got it. Being more concise. So that's also something that you can take a look at. So review those particular lessons, right? So now what you want to do is, now that I've given you some feedback on your integrated writing, you can also do an independent writing task. Now this error correction, it only works for 2 essays. I cannot do it for every essay. It's very labor intensive. It takes a long time to do these kinds of, to provide this kind of feedback, which is why I charge so much money for this service. But you can also think about all of these things, because a lot of your problems are not really structural or organizational issues or content issues. You understand the reading passage, you understand the listening passage, you did a really, really good job putting all that information together. The only problem really maybe was that final paragraph. I gave you some ideas on what you could do to maybe develop that a little bit more and to restructure that a little bit more. But think about all of these types of writing errors that you're having, and study these lessons, and then try to minimize or avoid these errors when you're doing the independent writing task, because I'm also going to video correct that. Does that make sense? All right, thank you for doing this particular essay. I hope that this error correction video has given you an idea about how you can improve your writing so you can get a perfect score of 30 out of 30. And I believe in my heart, I think you have a good chance at doing that if you can eliminate some of these errors in your writing.